updates that are now coming in on Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is on his first visit to New Zealand since taking office, and trade and defence that continue to dominate the Prime Minister's agenda in Auckland, as the bilateral talks and delegation-level talks and discussions have now been held. We also got you the opening as far as the Prime Minister, who was thanking his New Zealand counterpart on previous visit as well, and how they're taking their relationship forward. Now, at the table at the crucial bilateral meeting of the two world leaders, the primary focus will be on the follow-up on the implementation of the India-New Zealand Free Trade Agreement. And we must understand why this trade ties that is going to be important between the two countries. So there you can see the exchange of the MOUs that is happening live as we speak. Will depend to the pictures as well. And when it comes to both India and New Zealand that have significant trade links with China, in fact, China continues to remain one of the biggest trading partners of New Zealand as well. But both have now growing concerns over China's expanding military footprint in the Indo-Pacific. So that is what they are now looking to diversify as far as the economic partnership is concerned. Srinjoy, help us understand, of course, when we speak of defense and security relations, both of them are also sharing a growing defense and security partnership that is centered around maritime domain awareness, joint exercises, and of course, when it comes to the strategic dialogue in the Indo-Pacific. Live pictures that are now coming in from Auckland.
Quite rightly. The fact that India and New Zealand are going to be strategic partners, this strategic partnership that will be announced very shortly. Prime Minister actually alluded to it. Now that will tell you that the relationship is a wide-ranging one. There will be an economic component. There will be a strategic component. There will be a defense component. There will be everything. It's a huge umbrella. So a strategic partnership means closer economic ties. Most definitely, because it shows, it's a way of saying that, look here, we trust you completely. So we can do defense ties together, we can do maritime ties together, we can do economic ties. You asked about defense. Now, the New Zealand government and India, they want closer defense ties, particularly vis-a-vis the navies. The two navies can work together. Or three countries, Australia, New Zealand, India, they can work together. And as we all know, that the Americans have decided that their Indo-Pacific Command will become the Pacific Command. So what happens to Indo? There, Australia, India, Indonesia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, all these countries fit in. And as a result, this will be a particularly important friendship. Now, New Zealand has a population of less than 5 million, but their per capita income is over $50,000. Now, that means for India, it's a big market. Not only traditional things like tea and coffee and spices, but also pharma, IT services, machinery, all of that will actually help the two countries. So these trade and investment ties are important. The defense ties are important, and also sports. Now this is not talked about so much, but at the highest levels of Indian government, there has been one question. How is it that New Zealand, with a population of less than 5 million, yes, we know they are world beaters in rugby and cricket and so on. They win 17 gold medals in the last two Olympics combined. In 1928, India, since then, India has won 10. So sports management cooperation, that is sponsorship, training, talent spotting, sports medicine, all of that will play a very big role in this relationship. So strategic relationship, that's the umbrella in which you have trade, you have defense, you have sport, you have investment, you have people-to-people relationship, you have a whole gamut of things.
Absolutely, because the pictures that have been coming in, of course, you know, when we speak speak of the wider maritime network is something that why India and New Zealand are now looking forward to it, especially becoming genuine partners, as New Zealand's military may be modest, but so to say its geography is something which is very important, and intelligence links and its surveillance network that may make it very valuable as far as for India is also concerned. And of course, when we speak of the commercial aspect, which is the FTA, Akansha, that between India and New Zealand, of course, the defense relationship could shape how both countries navigate in the increasingly contested Indo-Pacific. But the FTA is something that we are now looking forward to.
Absolutely. And if we can say that the FTAs or say this economic partnerships nowadays, whether it is with other Western countries or the ones in the Oceania region, we can see that it is the economic partnerships which are paving the path towards strategic partnership as well. And that's why it's important to highlight what New Zealand is going to bring to the table for India. You're looking at sectoral growth, as we've been talking about. We are not just looking at times which are geopolitically divided, they are also geo-economically divided thanks to the Trumpian tariffs, which is why India has this need to diversify, and when it will be lowering that trade tariff barrier for New Zealand, we could be looking towards garnering close to $20 billion worth in investments. And India and New Zealand both are looking towards doubling their trade and goods and services by the year 2030. That's the goal. More importantly, you're looking at sectors like gems and jewelry, leather, footwear, textiles, dairy. All of these sectors, remember, are those sectors which have been heavily impacted by the US tariffs. And so for Prime Minister to be embarking on this three-nation tour and looking towards trade has been extremely significant when it comes to, sort of amping up our bilateral trade with countries like New Zealand, which currently at the most are, engaging in trade worth close to $2.5 billion. Yeah. India, though, is looking towards New Zealand because it's our second largest bilateral trading partner in the Oceania region. So we'll have to see what all emerges. People-to-people ties is another very significant aspect, Amita, given that we are also looking towards having student visas be issued as work visas post their studies. Can we address the security aspect for Indians over there? The safety and security will also be featuring in the bilateral engagements. We just played out that interview with the Indian High Commissioner to New Zealand, where she's rightly highlighted that, yes, the Khalistani menace is also being discussed at the highest levels. It's being part of the bilateral engagement talks. And Prime Minister also right now, while addressing, spoke about how New Zealand and India are both countries which are very diverse and respectful of the diversity in their countries. We also have shared democratic values. So let's see what emerges through these MOUs.
Absolutely, because the exchanges are happening currently as we speak. And, this visit that also marks to enjoy a major milestone when we speak of bilaterals between India and New Zealand. Because this strategic partnership that is expected to elevate the relationship, and as we have been pointing out, several sectors that include trade, defense and sports. But alongside the proposed upgrade in ties, both sides are also looking forward and working towards a possible free trade agreement and deeper defense cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. Because, Shinjoy, this is now coming in from New Zealand and India, making rapid progress on the trade agenda and the new strategic partnership that would provide a broader framework when it comes to expanding cooperation beyond the proposed free trade agreement.
When you look at defense, this is something that is not talked about so much. There will really be three areas where people will work together. One, closer intelligence sharing. Second, interoperability. And third, training, which also means that that possibility of more New Zealand officers being trained in India and vice versa will happen. So closer defense ties means better knowledge of the Indo-Pacific as well. If you have real-time transfers of intelligence between the two countries, it shows enormous trust. And this can come under this strategic partnership that is being talked about. Now, defense is always a crucial issue. And at this time, it is more so because there is a pinch. There is an uncertainty in the Indo-Pacific. There is a level of insecurity in the Indo-Pacific. So that has to be kept in mind. Besides that, as you rightly said and has been talked about, economic issues are very important. Here is a country, less than 5 million people, but with a per capita income of $50,000. How much more than India's is that? So keeping that in mind, it's a great opportunity for India to export to New Zealand. And therefore, it's this free trade agreement and enhancing the free trade agreement, which is likely to happen. And then New Zealanders wanted more.
Yeah.
They are the ones. Luxon is the one, apparently, who has spoken about this more.
Yeah.
They want this agreement to be enhanced. And you would expect that to happen this time. So the strategic partnership, defense, economic issues, sport, all of this. Let's not forget the first Indian sporting team that went to New Zealand was in 1926, a hockey team captained by Dhyan Chand. Now, this is something that both countries want to keep in mind. So, as a result, this is looking like a very serious partnership for the future.
Absolutely, and this is something that has now been looking upon. Of course, when it comes to this seems to be a common ground that we are now looking at as far as why, Prime Minister included Indonesia, Australia and New Zealand as far as his 3 countries visit in its Act East policy. But this is something which the Prime Minister has just mentioned as far as his opening remarks are concerned, where he's recalled the importance of the ties and why this visit will be shaping up the next chapter for the stability of the Indo-Pacific. Well, when we speak of India also encouraging creation of more opportunities for Indian students as well, seeking quality education, both sides are also working to facilitate the mobility of professionals and also skilled workers, also addressing when it comes to the commitment to supporting an open and inclusive, stable and prosperous Indo-Pacific where sovereignty and territorial integrity is something that is being respected. And as the significant component of the newly signed trade agreement, mobility will continue to become an important focus area for India. And the meetings that it looks to improve the prospects of high-skilled Indian workers. And India seems to have also stressed before New Zealand and other countries that hassles that are faced by such professionals over a period of time, Akansha, have the effect of a de facto non-tariff barrier. So this is something which India seems to be raising this issue before New Zealand.
Absolutely. And in fact, if I were to share some points over here with you, that student mobility will in fact be a major part of the FTA that has already been signed in April this year. We are being told that it's going to be hinging on creating professional pathways, especially for Indian students as well. Many of these students could also get temporary work visas in New Zealand. More importantly, you're looking at professionals also arriving in New Zealand on temporary employment entry with a quota of 5,000 visas for skilled Indians to stay up to 3 years. Then there's going to be a working holiday visa for 1,000 young Indians annually who can avail multiple entry in New Zealand for a period of 12 months. These are all aspects that we've received from the PIB as far as the Indian FTA with New Zealand is concerned. But now here's what the potential concerns are going to be as this FTA arrives in the New Zealand Parliament for ratification, because as High Commissioner was also highlighting, there's a lot of debate around it. And when we talk about debate, there are many from the Aboriginal community there, also the New Zealanders who are against immigration. Then there's also this sentiment where they feel that the evangelical Christians in New Zealand feel that they cannot open up their country to other minority cultures. They've not just attacked, say, the Indians, they've also verbally attacked other communities, whether they are Islamic, Buddhists, and so on and so forth. So much hinges on Prime Minister Modi's diplomacy to build that trust. We've already spoken about how Prime Minister Lakson has been very keen on building this partnership. Let's hope that that trust deficit, say, if there is at all some, within certain communities in New Zealand, is sort of bridged as Prime Minister embarks on this historic visit.
Absolutely. So what's, on the cards that we're expecting? The announcements around easier student visas, academic collaborations, and also professional mobility are expected during this visit. And also speaking of the pictures of this traditional welcome that has been accorded to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, it's called the Maori welcome at the Government House in Auckland. That reflects New Zealand's rich indigenous heritage and the warmth of its hospitality. Let's take a look.
ये स्वागत दोनों देशों के बीच सम्मान, दोस्ती और सांस्कृतिक जुड़ाव का
So that's the traditional Maori welcome that has been accorded to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The pictures that are also being shared by Prime Minister Narendra Modi as the engagements in the bilaterals and the exchange of the MOUs that is currently underway in Auckland. We'll stay with this live coverage back after a short break. As we continue to get you the diplomatic engagements in Auckland, here is what the Indian High Commissioner to New Zealand has to say, especially when it comes to this all-important visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Hi, Commissioner Mwanpui Sayoe. Thank you for joining in on Times Now. You know, Prime Minister Modi's visit to New Zealand comes at a very critical juncture, especially when everybody's been talking about security in the Indo-Pacific and the commitment to regional stability in the Indo-Pacific, especially when it comes to Quad partners. So how significant is this visit for India-New Zealand cooperation in the Indo-Pacific? And even though New Zealand is not a partner in Quad, what can be the areas of collaboration when it comes to maritime security, climate, and of course regional stability as far as Indo-Pacific for India and New Zealand is concerned?
Thank you so much for inviting me to your program. I'm very happy that this visit comes very soon and we are working very hard towards it. Now, as far as your question is concerned, you know, Prime Minister Modi has Mahasagar, he has this vision, so that's mutual and holistic advancement and security and growth across the regions. So here is a commitment to making the seas safe, and it also has a piece of resilient supply chains. And as you rightly pointed out, during a very disruptive time, we need to have a free and open Indo-Pacific more than ever. And in this, you will see that our Honorable Prime Minister is traveling from Indonesia to Australia to New Zealand. And all four of our countries are maritime nations. India plays a very big role in maritime security. And I don't know how many people know this, but there is Combined Task Force 150. New Zealand was leading it last year, and there was a huge drug bust with 2.5 ton narcotics that were seized by INS Tarkash, by the Indian Navy. And this was something that New Zealand and India did together. And I believe that we can work very closely in the Indo-Pacific, and we'll be working further on our maritime cooperation as well.
Right, and trade has been such a significant component to this bilateral relationship, even more so after the New Zealand Prime Minister visited India. So FTA negotiations are back on the table. What are the key outcomes India is looking at, whether it is sectors of agriculture, dairy, tech, education? Do you see driving how the next phase of India-New Zealand trade? What sectors are going to be crucial?
Yes, absolutely. So our prime ministers, they committed to this negotiation of a free trade agreement, and it was signed this April. I was fortunate enough to witness the signing of the FTA, and now it's going through the process of ratification here in New Zealand. A lot of public debate going on here. Now, both our economies, they're very complementary. For them, of course, India is a huge market. What does India get from New Zealand? So in terms of agriculture, horticulture, dairy, their productivity is very high. And I believe that we could learn a lot from New Zealand and enhance the productivity and the earnings for our farmers, those who are involved in all of these sectors in horticulture. So there are things like promotion of kiwi, apples and honey. So these are various things that we are working on. This is a work in progress. And also, I don't know if you know, but there is also mention of traditional medicine. So our Ayush sectors as well as traditional Maori medicine as well.
All right, now let me come to certain concerns with regards to Khalistani violent extremism and anti-India activities, which has also been flagged by Indians in New Zealand. Will this issue be on the agenda during Prime Minister Modi's talks with the New Zealand leadership? How can both countries strengthen cooperation on counter-terrorism and community safety?
Yes, this issue has figured in our discussions at bilateral levels, and we will continue to be engaged with New Zealand government on this very, very important issue. And I think on the broader issue of counterterrorism, there's a lot that we can do together because, of course, India has often been the victim of cross-border terrorism. And New Zealand has also faced terrorist attack in their own soil in Christchurch. So therefore, I believe that we have a lot to work together.
Oh, absolutely, which is why my last question is about people-to-people ties, the Indian community in New Zealand, which, remember, High Commissioner, is over 2.5 lakh strong. It's growing. How important will people-to-people ties be for the diaspora community, for the students, and for skilled labor looking towards opportunities in New Zealand? Can we expect any announcement when it comes to mobility and immigration as well?
A little bit of shout out for our Indian community here in New Zealand. So you've mentioned a figure. In fact, it would be upwards of 3 lakhs here. And they are simply talented, they are hardworking, and they are involved in politics, they are entrepreneurs, they are in dairy, across diverse sectors, and I couldn't be more proud of them. Now, the Indian community, we have called them a living bridge, because governments, we can have agreements, we can have MOUs in place, but it's actually people that nurture the relationship. So yes, even our Prime Minister would be addressing the diaspora, as he often does when he travels abroad. And as well, you asked about skill and mobility. So I believe in the free trade agreement, there is provision for mobility for certain skill sectors. So here, there are 5,000 temporary entry employment. And for skilled students, there is a visa and they'll be able to work as well. So there are many pieces to it. I don't want to divulge all of the things that would be announced because there won't be any fun.
Sure.
But these are some of the components as well. Thank
Sure,
you.
High Commissioner. We look forward to some very interesting announcements. Thank you so much, High Commissioner Moanfui Sayor. It was a pleasure having you here on Times Now.
It was my pleasure too. Thank you.